learning about the three branches of government, which happened inside of the articles of the Constitution. They set up the three branches of government. So while you're putting away your science and your devices and getting out your social studies, we just did that less than 10 minutes ago. There's no reason for you to be leaving my room. Everything's moving real nice and slow today.
Yeah. It's the legislative branch.
Yeah, it's the courts.
It's the executive branch.
Judicial.
I'm the one that passed the laws. So if you want to make something happen, you gotta go through me.
Who's calling the shots in the Oval Office?
Flocabulary. Let's
Listen,
go. It goes check, check, two-state balance, not just one. We bring three talents, the powers. Gotta keep them separated. That's the motto. We made it. Three branches of government, that's all. Legislative writes the laws. Executive executes laws so official. The court system is judicial. I'm the legislative branch, I write laws. Without me, it'll be anarchy, of course. Say my name. I'm called Congress, sitting on Capitol Hill. Kid, that's honest. Made up of the Senate and the House of Reps. We write a bill and send it to the president's desk. We legislate and we roll deep. 535 members in my clique. See, Senate, each state sends 100 senators in all. That's how we do. The House of Representatives is by population. Cali reps the hardest, no debating. If my bill gets a presidential veto, I can override that with enough people. I wrote the budget and I'm passing the laws. No, I'ma grab the mic and pass it off.
oh hey Congress, sometimes I need to mess with your plans. I carry out laws, I'm the executive branch. I'm the president, roll with the VP and cabinet. I'll veto your laws if I'm not having it. So hail to the commander-in-chief. All the armed forces need to follow me. My power's been blossoming since George Washington stepped into the office and did awesome things. I got a bowling alley in my home where I call in airstrikes from invisible drones. Who appoints the cabinet and judges too? The boss in the Oval Office, that's who.
Check, I'ma keep it short, the judicial system. I'm the courts, my highest court, that's supreme. All 9 justices know what I mean. Nominated by the press, confirmed by the Senate. No term limits, they serve a life sentence. Plead your case, it's not unusual for me to rule a law unconstitutional.
So I write a law,
Well, I might veto it.
and I can override that. You know it.
Man, I'm executive, the one that carries it
It
out.
can get challenged in the courts, that's what I'm all about. I might declare it unconstitutional.
I can impeach judges who act unusual.
I nominate justices in the first
I
place.
can impeach you too if you step out of place. Three branches of government, that's all. Legislative writes the laws. Executive executes laws so official. The court system is judicial. Three branches of government, that's all. Legislative writes the laws. Executive executes laws so official. The court system is judicial. It goes check, check, two-state balance, not just one. We bring three talents to powers. Gotta keep them separated. That's the motto. We made it.
Okay, guys. Yes, today we are digging into the articles part of the Constitution deeper. And in order to dig in, we're going to be learning about the three branches of government. So get your social studies open to page 57. And I'm going to turn it so that it's facing this way. So it makes, where I can read it. I've got us where we do not need to be. Alrighty. So up here, lost in the top here, it says, not only under the articles did we separate into the federal, state, and local governments. We've heard that the last 2 days. We talked about it was separated national, federal government, state, Tennessee, local, Rutherford County. Okay. But each of those is also divided again into what's known as the 3 branches. And I know some people like to think about it like a tree. It takes the branches of a tree to make one solid piece come together, but each branch does something special. So I'm going to have my red pen and my highlighter and my pencil. This blank right here is 3 branches. Dun, 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 dun. There is a song here. It's not the vocabulary one. It's To the Wheels of the Bus. So for those of us who aren't famous rappers and can keep up with that, your pens aren't fascinating. You may know the wheels of the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Okay, so the 3 branches of government, 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 the 3 branches of government. What does each one do? Legislative branch creates our laws, writes new laws, passes laws. Members of Congress make the laws, setting down the rules. Okay, so within each level, national, state, and local, there's a group called the legislative branch. They write and make the laws. Okay, so I'm going to underline legislative branch. Okay, I'm going to write and passes laws. You can highlight it or underline it with your red pen, whatever makes it stand out to you. Okay. So when I think of legislative branch, I think it begins with an L. That equals they're writing the laws. That's how I keep that one in my mind. Okay. All right. The next one is the executive branch. The executive branch enforces laws, carries out laws, applies the laws. The president and police enforce the laws, making sure they're obeyed. So these folks write them. So Haven and her speeding again. The legislative branch would be the group that says the speed limit on Veterans Parkway is 30 miles per hour. I can't even talk no more. 30 miles per hour. Okay. So if Haven is breaking that law, we're not going to have someone from the Congress coming down and checking on her, but she's going to get caught by the popo. They're the ones who carry out the law, enforce the law. Okay. So executive branch, it has the word execute in it. Execute doesn't mean to kill. Execute means to do it, to enforce it, to make it happen. So I'm going to put enforce the laws. So E, we're going to enforce it. Okay. Our third branch is the judicial branch. The judicial branch reviews the laws, rules on laws, interprets laws. Courts and judges judge the laws, deciding if they're fair. So judicial, you can see within that judge. Judicial judge. Well, Haven might have to go to court. You know, she might be like, but it wasn't my fault. I was speeding. You know, I think 30 miles an hour is too slow on Veterans Parkway. She'll tell the judge that, and it'll be the judge to decide whether or not her punishment is fair or not. Okay. I doubt they're going to throw Haven in jail for going over the speed limit a couple miles, right? They might give her a fine. They might make her pay some money, right? So they judge the laws and how you'll be punished for them, if a law is fair, if a law is not fair. and whether or not it should be a part of our government. So J, when I think of J, I think of judge. Okay. And then the chorus repeats the three branches of government, 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 the three branches of government. Each one has a special role. And most of the time when we talk about the three branches of government, you'll see them like this. They did this so that no one branch was too powerful. Because if one person or one group of people did all of these, they could say, this is the law. On Friday, we all have to wear teal because teal is Miss Patterson's favorite color. I'm writing the law. Everyone has to wear teal. Okay. And if you don't get to do recess. I'm going to enforce it. Yeah, that sounds fair. Do you see there's no one checking on me? I wrote the law, I enforced it, and I decided whether or not it was fair. Okay? Do you see that? So we did not want a king again, right? We just got rid of King George, who would not listen to us. So they came up with this so that these could check each other and make sure they were doing what they were supposed to do. So it would be fair for everyone. Okay. You got this part? Here we go. So Article 1, 2, and 3, the first three parts in the article part of the Constitution. So we got the preamble, we're in the articles. Article 1, 2, and 3 set up the three branches of government. They set up the legislative, executive, and judicial. Those are the three branches. One more time. Legislative writes the laws. Executive enforces the laws. Judicial judges the laws. History teaches us that if all government power is in the hands of a king or a small group of people, they will usually turn into tyrants, like Miss Patterson just was. We're going to wear teal because it's my favorite color. We do what I say. A tyrant is someone who doesn't give anyone else an opinion, and they think what they say goes. I don't care if that's not your favorite color. We're all wearing it on Friday. Okay. That's a tyrant. Okay. A tyrant abuses the individual rights of the people. There's Kingston over there. He said, but Miss Patterson, I don't like shush. But I don't like to shush. But Miss Patterson, I don't have anything teal. Can I still do that? Shush. Okay. A tyrant would abuse their power. James Madison, remember him? Wrote, him and George Washington and Ben Franklin, writers of the Constitution, proposed that our government be separated into those three branches. This divides that power and makes it more difficult for any one group to abuse that power. Okay. All right. Article 1. Set up the legislative branch. Let's practice writing that big vocabulary word. Ledge. Is. Lay. Tiv. Legislative branch. Branch. And this has a picture here for us. You maybe have seen this building, pictures of it, maybe even on some monies. Okay. This is called Congress, and it's divided into two parts. Okay. It's divided into the House of Representatives and the Senate. And we'll talk later on about why there are two parts of Congress. Okay. Because they wanted to make sure representation from each state was fair. Okay. And we'll talk about how they came about with that. But the legislative branch, again, lawmaking branch, they meet in the Capitol, Washington, D.C. and they make the rules for our government. However, they cannot just make any rule or laws. They can only make laws that the Constitution says they can make. I'm going to underline that. Because the next part we're going to talk about is the amendments, the Bill of Rights. If it violates people's rights based on the Bill of Rights, then it cannot be a law. It can be declared unconstitutional. Meaning it's going against what the Constitution said. You can't pass it. Okay. The legislative branch is the most powerful branch because it has the power to tax and to make laws. To spread this power out, it's divided into two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. All laws have to be passed by both sets of people. So far, he's so goody. Legislative branch creates our laws, write news laws, passes laws. Members of Congress make new laws, setting down the rules. And there are lots of people that belong to these two groups. So when I was a fourth grader, I thought the president was like the king. That he came up with the laws and everything that whatever he or she said was it. I'm telling you right now, that's not true. Not true. We have these three branches. Okay. The president is only one part of one branch. Okay. All right. You ready to flip? Flip. We're going to read about these other two branches here, and we'll watch a brain pop on the three branches, and then we'll be done with social studies. It's 1:20. Can you handle it? Okay, good. All right, I had to turn my book around. Woo, there's Air Force One. That's the plane of the Presidente. There's the White House. That's where the Presidente lives. President, I'm just being silly. Sorry. President. Article 2 sets up the executive branch. Let's work on spelling that vocabulary word. That's a big word. X. Whenever you have that sound, we've talked about that word part. X. E. Q. Tiv. So we've had tiv twice. Executive. You'll see Miss Patterson added /she because we may have a Madam President in our time. We have a Madam Vice President, the first one that we've had. So we may, one of our ladies sitting in this classroom right now may be El Presidente someday. So I put /she just in case, because times they are changing. The President of the United States is the executive branch. He/she lives and works in the White House. He and his staff execute the law. That doesn't mean kill the law. It means to carry it out, to make it happen. So I'm going to underline that. He and his staff, or she and her staff. That's what's said. So it's not only the president, but he has a group called his cabinet. And we'll talk about those and who they are. So trying to take a crash course into the three branches, Constitution articles. Okay. In other words, they put the laws into action. He meets with the leaders of other countries, and he is the commander of the army. And if you think about it, who was our first president?
George Washington.
George Washington. Do you see how these roles fit well with him being a part of the executive branch? Commander of the army. Wasn't he the commander in the Revolutionary War? Okay. Alrighty. So commander of the army. He also forgave people of their crimes, and this is called a pardon. So let's say that someone is found guilty of a crime by the judicial branch. The executive branch can pardon that person, which balances the judicial branch, so it doesn't have too much power. Okay. All right. And then last but not least, that's the executive branch. The president and his staff, which is known as the cabinet, not the cabinets over here that we can open up and store stuff in. Now we've got the judicial branch. And right there at the beginning, you see the beginning of judge. Judish. Judicial. Judicial branch. Oh, and I forgot to write branch on executive. Sorry. And you'll notice your pictures here. You may notice that the Supreme Court looks an awful lot like the Greek Parthenon. Ah, little nod to some Greek mythology there within our own government buildings. So we've got judges. Judges work in courts. Well, the highest court in the land is known as the Supreme Court. See, Supreme, highest, get it? Got highest court, Supreme? Yes, Supreme Court. Okay. The Supreme Court and the lower federal court systems interpret and judge the law. If there are any disagreements between citizens and or states, the courts help decide how to resolve the disagreement based on the laws. I'm going to underline resolve the disagreement. Remember we had all those quarreling states under the Articles of Confederation? Well, that's why we now have this judicial branch to help solve those problems when people can't get along. Okay. Judges are chosen by the president, and the Senate must approve them. So, do you see? There's going to be a judge on the judicial branch, chosen by the executive branch, and approved by the legislative branch. That way, all three branches have a say in who gets to be a judge. That's how they balance each other out. Okay. Once a federal judge is appointed, they serve in that position for the rest of their lives or until they decide to retire. But they don't have to get reelected or voted in or out. Once you have that highest honor, you get to stay there. Okay, so why? Why we got these three branches? Why they put it in our Constitution? Here's the big closing statement. The goal of these three branches in the Constitution is to separate power. Separate power. So that no one becomes too powerful. The guy sitting there in Independence Hall just went through the Rev War 6 years before Carter. They had to fight that Rev War because there was a king that wouldn't listen. So when they were sitting there in that hot Independence Hall, they wanted to make sure that power was spread out, that no one person could become too powerful. Okay. The three branches also have within them what we call checks. Checks. And what checks mean, we'll highlight it. There's an arrow right here. It's where the other branches go. Is that branch following the rules? You following the rules over there? Okay, judicial branch, I'm checking on you. Are you following the rules over there? Executive branch, you doing what you're supposed to over here? You got it, okay, okay. Executive branch, are you doing what you're supposed to over here? We checking on each other. All the branches check on each other and make sure they're following the rules. Okay? Checks and balances are words that you will hear with these three branches. Bal and says. And I'm going to highlight that too. If they're balanced, you can see here, do you see this scale here? This scale is unbalanced, like our math solve me mobiles. This is unbalanced. One side is heavier. We want to be fair and equal. So we want to balance those branches so that no branch can become too powerful. So our goal with setting up the three branches in the Constitution is to separate the power. So there's going to be checks and balances. Honey, you don't go anymore. You stay with me. Checks and balances to make sure the branches are following the rules and no branch can be too powerful. Cool? All right. Let's have Moby explain it to us now. I've explained it a little bit. We're going to have Moby explain it to us, and then we'll be done with social studies for today. Boop, boop. Here we go. Wasn't being weird. Okay, there's more than one way to do this. Boop. So stand up and take your stretch while I'm pulling it up. Thank you for sitting and listening patiently. We will learn more about this next time. We're going to watch a brain pop on it first. You can leave it out. It bothered me, honey. What about yourself? Tell a friend. What is the legislative branch? What does it do? Oh, see why you might need it? All righty, go tell somebody different. What's the executive branch? What does it do? Who's involved in it? If you don't know, look back at your notes. And who's in charge of that? See, that's why you needed that. You could look. And go tell somebody about the judicial branch. And who would be a part of the judicial branch? What types of people? Judges. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So this video is going to talk about the three branches, review some of what we've talked about. I do see them also talking about Congress, the legislative branch being split into the House of Representatives and the Senate. So you may hear a little bit about that as well to wet your whistle for when we dive a little deeper. So we started this week talking about they wrote the Constitution, and then we are breaking it down deeper and deeper into it. We did the preamble yesterday. We talked about the articles. The articles set up the three branches of government. Okay, guys, are you ready to review it, Moby? Okay, all righty. Hit the lights. Lights, camera, action.
It's gotta be right around here. Oh. Dear Tim and Moby, can you tell me about the three branches of the U.S. government? What do they do? From Marin. Hey, lucky for you, we're in Washington, D.C. When the Constitution was drafted, the framers divided the federal government's powers between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. The Capitol building is home to the legislative branch of government. That's Congress. The United States Congress writes our nation's laws. The Congress is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Both are made up of people from every state. There are a total of 435 seats in the House of Representatives. The number of representatives sent to the House varies from state to state. The bigger the state's population, the more representatives it gets. The Senate always has 2 representatives per state. So, with 50 states, that makes 100. Voters elect 2 senators from each state, All
right, so just making sure you're hearing that. When we're talking about the legislative branch, that's like 500 people. It's over 500 people that have to vote before something becomes a part of the Constitution and becomes a law. Okay? Instead of one king being like, we all wear teal on Friday. Okay? So just making sure you're hearing that.
regardless of population size. Well, the Senate and the House work together, but they have different powers. Both the House and the Senate can introduce bills that become laws, but only the House can introduce bills that have to do with government spending. The Senate has authority over treaties with other countries. It also gets to approve or reject judges and other people nominated by the president. Our legislative branch helps build our laws in a way that serves every corner of our nation. The executive branch includes the president, the vice president, and the heads of various departments and agencies. The executive branch carries out laws and approves and recommends new ones. It also directs national defense and foreign policy. The president is commander-in-chief of the military. A group of advisors called the cabinet helps the president make decisions. They run different agencies and give advice on everything from foreign affairs to education. The executive branch has grown very powerful since our nation was formed. Today, the president is probably the most influential person in the country and maybe the world. Still, the president only gets 2 4-year terms at most, and then it's time to give someone else a shot. Finally, the judicial branch is headed by the Supreme Court and its 9 justices. When someone brings a case before the Supreme Court, it means they think some law is unconstitutional. In other words, that it conflicts with the rules set out in the Constitution. If the Supreme Court agrees, the law is struck down. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the country, and their decisions overrule those of all other courts. The lower courts use the Supreme Court's rulings as guidelines. So each ruling helps shape the law of the land. Well, the branches work together in a complex system of checks and balances. The framers of the Constitution didn't want any one branch to have too much power. So each branch is limited by the other 2 in different ways. For example, Congress presents a bill to the president, but the president doesn't have to sign it. He can say no and veto it. But Congress can override that veto if 2/3 of the representatives in both houses agree. Then the bill becomes law. But if the Supreme Court decides that the law is unconstitutional, then that law is out of here. In addition to the checks and balances associated with laws, there are others. Each member of the president's cabinet has to be approved by a majority of the Senate. Supreme Court justices serve for life, but first they have to be appointed by the President and approved by the Senate. Congress can also remove Supreme Court justices from their posts through a process called impeachment. The office of the President may be a powerful one, but the Supreme Court can declare the President's actions unconstitutional. And Congress can actually remove the President from office via impeachment. I think you get the idea. The checks and balances and separation of powers help keep our federal government in balance. Change happens slowly and deliberately, and only when a lot of people agree on it. Well, I don't think there's anything in the Constitution that says that robots can't run for public office. Would I vote for you? I'm too young to vote.
All right, guys, I hope that reviewed some of that vocabulary for you and helped you understand about the three branches. I hope when you fill out your agenda today, you can say that you learned about the three branches of government. Okay, Miss Berry, it's 1:40. And there is an epic battle between Percy and Ares happening. So I would kind of like to just go ahead and pack up and clean up and spend our time. Is that Brainiacs? How you feel about that? Okay, Miss Berry, Sponge, how y'all feel about that? Okay, then let's make that happen. Super.